In life spanning, there is no plan B. I'm Jean Fallacara, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are. Hello guys, thank you for joining. Today I have a rock star from the UK, Dr. Julia Jones. And we are going to talk about something that if you follow me for a long time, you know that is my passion. Music, flow state, brain optimization, and of course, life optimization and longevity. Julia, or I can call you Doc if you want. Doctor.
Call me whatever you like.
Okay. Julia, I like that. It's your name anyway.
It is.
Yeah. So Julia, thank you for joining.
54 years it's been my name.
Oh, you don't look 54, so it seems to be working on you.
Great lighting.
Well, I think that music keeps people younger.
Yeah. Well, we're going to dig into that, aren't we?
Absolutely. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about who you are, where you're coming from, and then we can dig into the books you wrote and whatever the mission you have on this planet or outside of the planet. But Let's go.
We'll start with this planet.
Yeah.
So, well, for 30 years, I have been pretty much obsessed with the effect of music on the brain and the body. I was first shown this when I was a sport and exercise science undergraduate. I was on an exchange trip from the UK. I went to the university in Los Angeles on an exchange trip. And while I was there, I got invited to the US Navy SEALs base in San Diego. And they showed me, the physical training guys there showed me how they were using music to increase exercise endurance, to reduce anxiety and stress, to boost motivation, help sleep quality. And I was in a band at university and a DJ. And this just fascinated me that they were using music like this, because I had only really thought of music up until that point as entertainment, and so this really opened my eyes to what we now call biohacking, right?
Yeah, well, what do we call biohacking? Biohacking seems to stick to everything you do.
Yeah, well, 30 years ago, this was like the early 90s, right? We weren't thinking of it like that. But that is what it was doing. Music was being used as a hack into the underlying evolutionary circuits to help optimize them in those situations. So I came back to the UK, I graduated, then for my master's thesis, I examined the use of music synchronization.
When is this?
So showing how people can basically exercise longer if you exercise in time to a beat, because the brain locks into that rhythm, detracts from feelings of fatigue, perceived feelings of fatigue. And so we've shown this over and over and over that people can produce more effort for longer if they're listening to music that they enjoy in particular.
I was saying,
they are synchronizing. So if you're trying to do 65 RPM on a bike, then you need 130 beats per minute. And this is kind of now standard stuff now. But back in the 90s when I was doing this is very early research, which was really underpinning the exercise to music industry that was ballooning. Mm-hmm. So then I worked with the British Olympic squads doing the same thing. So using music to help reduce anxiety, focus, achieve certain mindset.
Increase focus, not reduce focus, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So increase focus, reduce anxiety.
You see, I'm listening.
Yeah. Boost training, results and things like that. So, and then I moved into dementia because my PhD looked at the effects of music from youth and the lifelong effects of music from youth. So how those memories are so deeply locked in, they last a lifetime, even in late stage dementia. So I started working with the NHS. And it's kind of gone full circle, really, because I was looking at chronic illnesses, and in that case, a neurodegenerative illness. And I had moved into neuroscience and applied neuroscience at King's. And I just suddenly thought, I spent decades telling people to go to the gym. As a sport and exercise scientist, you need to go to the gym, you need to count calories, you need to listen. And I was like, wow, why is this not working? And I plotted, so I started research. So I've just completed this 5-year research journey. And the first thing that I did was to plot diet and fitness revenues over 50 years. And they went up and up and up and up and up and up. And then I plotted average waistline size across 50 years. And that went up and up and up and up and up. Then I plotted chronic physical health statistics across 50 years. And that went up and up and up. Poor mental health across 50 years, up and up and up and up.
Especially with the spike in the 2 year.
Yeah. So as the diet and fitness industry grew, the size of the health problem grew.
Yeah.
So as a sport and exercise scientist, originally I was like, wow, this is not
doesn't make sense.
Something that we need to rethink. It's time for a rethink. Why are these things not working? And so that's what I've just literally, at the end of last year, ended a 5-year research journey, which was documented in the books that I wrote, and the different pilot studies that I ran with employers and with the NHS to trying to find out what was at the heart of this problem and why it's failing. And it was really quite obvious when we looked at it. Do we just say now, or should we go on to that?
No, please.
Okay, so the main finding of this 5-year research journey was that anything that involves ongoing effort or cost is highly unlikely to be sustained for a lifetime by most people. So
what does that mean?
Yeah, and if you look back at all of the diet and fitness, typically over the last 50 years, the diet and fitness protocols all involve a lot of effort, and they usually involve a lot of ongoing cost.
Yeah, sweating, mainly sweating. Like if you don't sweat, you don't train.
Exactly. But there's also the time cost of it, right? And the time effort. It's like to go to gym or whatever. You have to go, you have to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've got to get into this outfit because we've all convinced ourselves that we have to wear certain clothes to go and do these things. So you've got to change, you've got to drive to the gym, or you've got to get to the gym, you've got to put your bag in the locker room, you've got to get in the thing.
You have to commit for it, yes.
You have to do a shower, and then you come out, and it's a huge time commitment, and most people are time poor. And the same with diets. People start doing these things, but they're hard work, and they require a lot of dedication to be able to really maintain that through a lifetime. And so that was the main finding, that these things are failing because they require ongoing effort and they require ongoing cost. And we don't have the motivational reward circuits in the brain to make us do those things, because
for your entire life. Yes,
exactly. So my work then switched to what's low effort and low cost.
Instead rewarding, you mean?
Realistically, those are the only things that are going to be maintained for a lifetime by the mass population, which is who we need to address, right? Is the mass population?
Yeah, because
not the super keen biohackers.
No, exactly. We all know that the super keen biohackers, like you said, are some sort of a cult and an elite club where you don't enter for free, and then you don't stay for free as well. So I'm with you on that. Like addressing the mass problem is probably solving the problem of the planet in a way. Yeah, population. Yeah, the woman that has a kid then doesn't have time to go to the gym, for example. So how did you do that?
And doesn't need to go to the gym. This is the thing. It's like, do we really need to be going to a gym, or should we be looking at our just daily routines and how we can build more natural movement to that, whether it's standing up more and this, all of your audience of this podcast is going to know all of this stuff. It sounds obvious to us that just standing up is an exercise.
Yeah, it is obvious because it's been communicated recently, but for years and years, we've been putting people in cages, forcing them to go to work at 8 p.m. or 9 a.m. and sitting at their desk up to 5 p.m. without moving, not even giving them the time to move, having their lunch on the spot on the desk. It's new, I would say, like in the last 10 years. Yeah, you need to move a bit. Standing desk are 3 years, 4 years, 5?
And really, this is, you just hit on the kind of main problem here, is that you can't say to your employer, oh, right, well, I can't do my job like everyone else is doing it because I need to move more. It's the peer pressure. And I did a talk today. One of my clients is one of the biggest financial institutions in the world. And the talk that I did today, we were looking at, habit hacking for time poor people. It's like people who have no time. So it's not the money. They've got the money, right? But they do not have the time. And that time is a cost.
Which is often the case.
Time poor. And this is the thing that was coming up. The number of attendees on that call today, it was like 600% higher than a normal wellness talk attendance.
No way. That's very interesting.
People are looking for, look, I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to go shopping for food. I don't have time. So
Julia, do you think that we became like lazy and we are looking for a hack that will just shortcut everything that is normally required? This is our society today?
Well, I don't think it's, if you think back in time, we just didn't live like this, did we? And that's the whole with your work as well. It's like we have this ancient operating system that if my phone, if the operating system for my phone was out of date, I would just download the updated version. But we don't have that luxury with our evolutionary circuits. We're stuck with this stuff. And so it's not that we're lazy. It's that we now exist in a whole different way of life that we don't have the circuits for. We've got the wrong operating system.
Interesting.
So trying to look at how these systems work from an evolutionary biology point of view and then try to mitigate them. And I was saying to these guys, the Q&A at the end was just like a frenzy because there were so many people on this call and they were all, there was a lot of questions coming in comments. And one of them was, look, I'm chained. You didn't say chained because you would have been fired.
Especially if you were in a corporate meeting. Yeah.
I spend a lot of time at my desk.
We understood it was chained.
What can I do? And it's you know what it's like when you're absorbed in work and then suddenly it's like, oh my God, I've been sitting here for 4 hours. That happens to people easily. And but there was a study that I was looking at a couple of weeks ago, and this was actually to do with blood sugar. But it was, and I cannot remember what journal it was in, but it was looking at knee bouncing, right? So when you're just sitting and you're just bouncing your knees up and down like that. And they were showing
burning calories,
just doing that after a meal in particular, like really reduced and flattened the blood sugar spike.
And burns a lot of calories too, because you have a small muscle that you're not using regularly.
And so just doing things like that, and having a different chair, standing up, just going to using the stairs. I mean, it's obvious stuff, but a lot of these offices, when I ask people in some of the offices, 'cause I do a lot of corporate work, and I say, right, do you know where the stairs are? And a lot of people actually don't know where the entrance to the staircase is, because we designed, you go in and the elevators are right in front of you, right? And then the stairs are somewhere around the back,
Yeah, we take elevators, we drive, we don't walk, we don't move much. We go from sitting at the lunch table to the sofa. All these things. Two questions on what you just said, because I got intrigued in two factors. One, we're going to develop a bit more, but I dropped the question now. You think about it. We're not wired for this world. My concern on this statement is very simple. With AI and emergence of these technologies that are coming super fast, we're going to be completely lost if we follow the same track, because the technology and the advance in technology that we had in the past 50 years will never match what we're going to see coming in the next 50 years. So we're going to be less wired. So think about that, because I want to develop that part of it. And the second, I want to ask you a question on the neuroscience side of it. That person that said, like, I'm sitting on my desk for long hours, 8 hours. I know for sure one thing, and you've worked on flow state and ultradian rhythm. No one can stay focused for more than 90 minutes. That's the focus span that we have for our brain. I still don't understand why in this society we're forcing people to stay 8 hours sitting on a desk and not making them work on batches of 90 minutes and have a walk every 20 minutes or something like that. That is the crucial problem of our society. What's your take on this?
But I don't think, I mean, a lot of the corporates that I work with, they're not working on the same thing for long periods of time. You know, it's mainly Zoom now. Like we're sitting on Zoom. Zoom is the new thing.
That is not working.
And it's, 30 minutes on this, and then you're doing something else. Then you're on a call,
people feel busy.
Then you're doing emails.
That's it. People feel busy by doing meetings, and I hate meetings, and by replying to emails. But once again, less meeting, because most meetings are just to set up the next meeting, and use AI to help you responding to emails that are urgent in the way that you can teach your assistant.
And I was saying today in this session that, I'm speaking with the London Underground at the moment, because some simple nudges can make a massive difference when you're thinking how much time people spend commuting. And so in the London Underground, when you approach the escalators, it says the sign in every single station, in every escalator in the London Underground, it says stand on the right. And those signs should say walk on the left.
It's true. Yeah.
Right? Because we follow instructions.
That's so cool. I love it.
Everyone stands on the right like sheep. And I really want the London Underground to change that signage to say walk on the left. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to ask my friend Banksy to do that.
Yes.
That could be cool.
Yes, because honestly, that would make a really big difference, because we know that people respond to instruction. They really do.
True.
And so just a simple change that if you were walking up escalators on your journey to the office and from the office every single day, some of those escalators are really long and steep. It's a burn by the time you get to the top. So stuff like that is, there are
the angle,
be doing
the angle, the referential, the approach. So do you think that, before we go to the other question, do you think it's because our education is wrong, the way that we've been educated, that led us to become the cheap people we are today, following the rules and sign and things like that?
Yeah, God, where do we start with education? It's so out of date. So I heard in terms of what people are taught about how their body works, most people know more about how their phone works and how their body works, because unless you choose to study those subjects, it's very, very poor. At a really young level, we should be taught how to breathe, which we're not taught any breathing techniques. And when I look at I do like a mystery shopper every year, where I go into gyms and fitness centres and I pretend to be interested in joining and get the tour and, get the instructors to tell me what they think I should be doing. And it's like still the stuff that we were being taught in the 1990s. It's like, God, these curriculums have not moved on. It's so out of date. It's mind-boggling. Yeah. And so, we're being taught things and we're being told things that aren't even accurate anymore, because the system is just out of date. And when it comes to foods and things like that, it's very, very, very confusing.
That's a hot topic, food, because for years and years we've been fed with junk food and stuff like that. Today we finally realize that some people, thousands, maybe million years, I would say thousands years ago, understood well that food is medicine, and they were treating their illness with food. Now, today, we start to understand that, those roots and spice are good for you. They are good for your heartbeat and stuff like that. But is part of education? Yeah. So again, is it because of our education, or is it, and now I'm going to trigger the punk attitude into your personality? Yes. Is it the system that is corrupt because of the money that is behind it? Or is it just the way that the mass is trying to make it easy for everyone?
We're in a system. I'll give you a brilliant example of this, because last year I was invited to the Houses of Parliament, the UK government, a round table. So about 20 or 30 of us were invited to this breakfast meeting to discuss the state of the nation's health, the UK population and the eating habits and the health crisis and everything else. And it was all about breakfast and getting more fibre in the diet and everything. And I arrived and was given this bag, like a goodie bag kind of thing.
With donuts.
And I looked in it and I was just thinking, pulling out this, I won't name the brand, but a very well-known breakfast cereal brand. I was pulling out these little boxes thinking, God, this is really inappropriate for this meeting to be. And then I realised that they had sponsored the round table.
That's it.
And so for me, already, before that, I was...
Yeah, the game was game over.
Thinking, God, this is going to be so hard to break, this system. In the US, it's the same.
It's the same, right? It's even worse. Not only from food manufacturer, but from pharma and things like that. But
it's not that it's not that people working in these companies are evil or anything like that. No. It's a job. It's a job, but the job in this corporate structure is to deliver value to the shareholders, and so it is. The health trap that we're in is that we've created this whole system that isn't designed in any way to be good for us.
Yep.
That's not on the radar. It was, how can we trigger human brains to buy these products? That's the whole marketing sector. And I was invited to speak at the World Neuromarketing Forum in LA a couple of years ago. And, neuromarketing is a massive sector now of just eye tracking and just thinking exactly about how to put something on a web page in a certain place or something on the display or things like that. Really sophisticated science going into how to
manipulation.
We're helpless victims in this system, really, unless you learn how the biology works, so you understand that you're in this game, but you can win, but it does take that knowledge. And I think that what I'm really doing now is just trying to broadcast all of this knowledge out far and wide to say, look, you don't even need to be going to the gym or doing this complicated diet or paying this or spending it or buying all these expensive probiotics. You've just got to do a few tiny things.
What are they?
Your daily habits. So stuff that you and I know, that, the time of day that you see the outdoors, just getting the outdoor light on the eyes for
before this
that's
angle.
That's the circadian ancient circuit for sleep, the time of day that you have your first meal, not eating too close to bedtime, all the stuff that in the
intermittent fasting is part of your hacks as well.
And I think it's just about, because a lot of people that I'm working with, they're eating like 16 hours a day. They're open, as soon as their eyes are open, bing.
Yeah, but you remember, Julia, in the 80s, 90s, and even in the year 2000, people were saying you should eat
that's what we
long by small chunk because you never feel angry and then you feel better. But this is like
that is exactly what I was taught in the 1970s. It's like it's the most important meal of the day. You have to have your breakfast. And fine, if you're not then still eating at 10, 11 p.m. at night, which is what we are doing, in many cases, especially in the corporate world, because there's a lot of client dinners and you're working late because you're working
desserts and everything,
time zones, and it's intense. But and with the intermittent fasting, have you seen the Netflix documentary that Chris Gardner at Stanford has done? Is that
what? Here's my thing. I don't have a TV. I rarely watch TV, but once in a while I look at one or two documentary on Netflix. And when I go for an IV therapy, it's the only time I'm going to watch a documentary. So I go for an IV every 2 weeks. So I watch 2 movies a month.
Right. Well, basically, this documentary looked at a twin study that was done, right? And it's that, what TV is like. TV has to be dramatic. It's like we're going to put the omnivores against the vegans. And so it's all about that. And then I was on a Zoom with Chris Gardner. So he's a professor of nutrition science at Stanford. And I did one of his modules a couple of years ago when I was trying to dig into the gut-brain axis and get a better understanding of this, the science behind the nutritional aspect. And in this Zoom last week, he said, when he was asked about intermittent fasting, he said that he didn't think that there was any metabolic benefits. And this is a leading professor at Stanford, nutrition. And he said maybe there are some spiritual benefits because people do it for religious reasons. I'm thinking, what then?
What?
I mean,
What about
serious?
Yeah, autophagy and all these processes that have been proven and proven and proven.
Honestly, my jaw almost hit the floor because
Of course.
when we've got leading names and leading scientists like this that aren't even saying the same thing across different, research papers and stuff like that, it's like, my God, how can we expect the wider population to really grasp onto this when there isn't even a consensus amongst the leading scientific figures in some of the biggest institutions in the world? I was really amazed, and and it was recorded, right? So there is proof. This isn't just me did I dream that? No, it really happened, and I was really surprised because if nothing else, right, even ignoring any cellular pathways that are just clearing up the waste products, ignoring all of that, if you reduce your eating window, there is a tendency to also produce automatically a caloric reduction, right? Because you're just not eating as you've got a shorter. I eat less if I eat within a shorter window because I'm not eating as often throughout the day. So there are lots of reasons to encourage people to stop eating across such a big time period. That was really
wow. But this is what makes me sad about. I'm a scientist as well, and I pray by science all the time. But makes me sad today because there is so much dumb going into social media for the fame of chasing clouds and these 15 minutes fames that everyone is trying to get. So I'm going to drop whatever I can drop there to get traction, even if it's not true. And then that's one. The second is there's so many publications out there that are paid publication today that are not even valid, and they come to contradict whatever was said before. So people are we're talking music, but people are dancing between what they hear on one side, what they hear on the other side. Is this okay? You should do this for getting a better health or better brain, and then a month later you have a publication and some famous people are talking about it and say, oh, there is a new publication saying that you should never do that. And all the people, the common mortal you were addressing and you were talking about before, are watching these. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the education because they have their own occupation, not discriminating on what I'm saying today. But they didn't go to science school or med school and things like that. And they listen to this information and are just like, okay, what the I'm going to do? What do I do? Where do I start?
It's confusing. And you have a lot of celebrity wellness experts who are then just rebroadcasting this information that they read in a media publication or something. And if you gave them a scientific journal and scientific paper to read, they wouldn't be able to get past the abstract, right? Because scientific papers are a language. They are a language, and you have to go through that excruciating journey learning how to read a scientific research paper. And most wellness experts cannot read a scientific paper. And I think that we've got to this, we've got to this point where there is so much noise on social media, and I've at the moment, the companies that I'm working with around my stuff, it's like, oh, we know that you hate social media and you don't agree with it from a wellness point of view, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
it's part of the the entry door today. If you're not on social media, you're nothing. You're no one.
It is. It is like I've got quite a few TV documentaries that we have, the broadcasters are interested in around my work and the books and everything else. But then they're like, oh, you need to bump your social media figures up. It's like, oh, seriously?
Well, they ask them to do it.
Yeah, it's like, isn't that what happens after you've done the TV documentary?
Yeah, that's it. Don't spend your energy in doing that.
It's like music now. It's like music. The record labels want to sign someone who's already got 1 million followers, not someone who's unknown, because they want it's the easy route, isn't it? So,
but let's talk about music. That was exactly what I was saying. Now let's talk about music, because this is like what you're doing, like putting music and brain alignment, I would say, breathing, meditation and stuff like that together. Please go ahead, explain us.
Yeah, so my first book was called The Music Diet, and it documented a lot of my PhD research, but also all the ways that I'd used music since that visit to the US Navy SEALs 30 years ago, and looking at all the different ways, from dementia care to dementia prevention to how to build children's brains, about lung capacity, about stress, anxiety, everything else. I mean, honestly, it is, I think music is the most overlooked, underutilized asset in the world, on the planet. As we started this podcast talking about the planet, it really is, because we positioned it as entertainment more recently. Before that, we used it to communicate. We used it in our communities. We used it to, before we'd invented language, right? We were still
playing instruments, or
we were making music together. So, but more recently, I've been looking at it from a stress and anxiety point of view, because I'm really homing in on the gut-brain axis. So it's how can we, through how we eat, maintain one end of it, and how can we look after the other end of it by thinking about our mindset and our stress levels and everything else through the autonomic nervous system and through brain waves and things like that. So during lockdown, I started experimenting by putting 2 extra beats in every other bar. So instead of a 4/4, the typical 4/4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, I started putting 2 extra beats in every other bar. So it's 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4 5.
I'm going to start dancing,
and then slowing that down to time shifting it to 120 beats per minute. So what I wanted to do,
may I ask why 120, not why 110 or 130, so 128, like on BPM?
So what I was trying to do was to bring people's breathing to 6 breaths a minute. With an extended exhale. Right. So at 120 beats per minute with a 4-beat inhale and a 6-beat exhale, that means that you're breathing in for 4 seconds, out for 6 seconds, which is 6 breaths per minute, right? But what I wanted to do with this music collection is also bust the myth that wellness music and breathwork music has to be this dolphins and whales and health spa kind of whirly synth sounds, right? So we've done it in electronica, hip hop, rock, pop, blues, country. We're going right the way across the music genres, so that whatever your music taste is, there is a track in this 4/6 format at 120 beats per minute that you can use to practice this 4/6 breathing and achieve this 6 breaths per minute with an extended exhale. And a few weeks ago, so we launched the first collection on Spotify and Apple Music. So this is a partnership.
I remember the launch.
So I've collaborated with Universal Music, Universal Production Music, the group within Universal Music. And I've been working with another neuroscientist from Cambridge University, brilliant woman called Dr. Becky Inkster. And the data that we're getting back from the EEG data is that even though, so if you played this music to people and it's like electronica format or hip hop format, you would think that is not wellness music, right? Because from a relaxation point of view, because we're really trying to bring people down, right? Dial them down. You wouldn't think that
120 in beats per minute. If the music follows that beats, it's more like entertaining and dancing. Yeah,
exactly. But the breath work effect is really powerful, and the breath work. So the data that we've been getting back, the EEG data, basically shows really interesting, successfully achieving these alpha, theta brainwave activations because the breath is so powerful. And this is why I think we should be teaching kids very, very young in school how to breathe. These really simple practices. slowing your breath.
Yeah. When you're anxious, like so many kids, they get so anxious, and instead of telling them, "Don't be nervous, don't be anxious," we should just like breathe.
It's our internal switch of all of this stuff that we can really step in and take control over. So it's really interesting, this project. It's called Music Hacks, one word. So if you
I've been exploring what you sent me, and
we've got there's another 6 tracks coming out.
Okay.
Releasing.
I want to see that,
in 2 weeks. I think that they'll be up on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon.
It works very well, honestly. You know what? When I was, and for me, it was not like documented and not a PhD study, but it was when I started to, this is how we got connected, actually, by Zori. I was at the beginning of my trainings telling people that they should put their mind into 128 bit per minute using techno music, because I was experimenting that combining the 128 BPM with breathing, and I was not making like the 4 or 6, I was making 4-4-4 all the time. And that combination was putting me in flow state for my workouts. And I was just like surprised. So I shared that information with my audience without knowing that someone was studying these things. And so when I learned that, I was just like, holy smoke, I love what
because the box breathing, or the lots of different styles, the 4-7-8, some people find that really, really effective. And we're currently in the studio doing that as well. And then we've got a really, really fascinating like reference track that we've just found for that was actually recorded by the Beatles at Abbey Road Studios.
Wow.
We've been doing a lot of this, I'm involved in some music medical companies that are based at Abbey Road Studios, because they have an AI incubator called Abbey Road there. But this Beatles track is like, oh my God, like this is like the reference track for 4-7-8. Like this is how we could really create that kind of time signature for the next collection.
Does it really
interesting?
Sorry, Julia. Yeah. Before a question about this, those tracks work for any type of people and any age.
Yeah, so I mean the breath. So the reason that I've gone the first collection is using 6 breaths per minute is that when I started digging into this and the HRV readings and trying to look at resonance frequency rates across different people and myself, trying to measure it, seeing which breathing ratios and breathing rates produce the highest HRV response and things like that. And kind of like the average was around 6 beats per minute. And obviously it's not exactly the same for everyone, but that was an average. And when there's a brilliant Dr. Ina Kazan, is it? Ina Kazan at Harvard, who's written books on HRV. She's really excellent. She was actually working with elite HRV,
Yes.
Years ago. Not years ago, but like 2 years ago. And I was on quite a few of her sessions where we were looking at the different, how to achieve that resonance frequency rate. And so and different ages is slightly different, but for adults and the groups that we were testing, it was around 6 breaths per minute, which is why we focused on that. But these tracks, it's a happy added advantage that we've got this data back, the EEG data that shows that it's also it's basically putting people in that focused meditative state, right? With the brain waves. But the real purpose of it is that I just wanted to use them to teach people about this type of breathing, whether they, could then, because what's brilliant about the human brain when it comes to music is that when you listen to a track regularly, you can recall that track almost exactly. So have you seen the quiz shows on TV? Well, you don't watch TV. So
I used to.
When so you'd start hearing the song and then they mute the song and you have to come back in exactly at the right place. And most people can almost do it really accurate because you can recall a song to almost the exact tempo, which means I was using it so that I thought, if I can teach people through the music that they love, so whether they want the hip hop track or the electronica tracks or the whatever it is, and we're also talking to artists about getting artists. So if your favorite artist had done a 4/6 track, right, you'd use their track. But you would then be able to reproduce that 4/6 breathing whenever you needed it.
At the same time as you remember the song.
Yeah.
That is quite sick. This is it could revolutionize the way that we learn things, because you can extend that to other applications like science, mathematics, or other things. When you master both together, for example, I don't know, I'm asking you a question. I'm thinking at the same time I'm listening to you, but I'm listening to a music that I know. I remember it. Now I learn how to breathe on that music. Then it's going to be a natural behavior because I don't need to think about it. It's going to be like, I'm going to go like 4 in, 6, blah, blah, with the same music. But now I have the space to put more memorizing process into this concept and say like, okay, I'm listening to this music. I'm breathing at the same time. I'm in a state where I'm relaxed and open for absorption of information. If I start learning something based on that, would I absorb the information the same way?
I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
That could be something.
Yeah, that's a whole other study.
A game changer in the system.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think, it's when we did this with I did my own kind of demo tracks during lockdown, which were very amateur. And then when I signed the collaboration agreement with Universal and started going into the studio with their producers and their composers. And the first one that I worked with, we went in and I explained to him how it works. I said, right, you've got to put 2 extra beats in every other bar. And he's like, what? Yeah. But then he did it. I went out to do some interviews with the videography people. And then when we came back in, he'd laid down the basic elements of the track. And so when we came back in, it was like this Ibiza, track going. And we were like, yeah, you've got it. And he spun around in his chair at the control desk and he's like, oh my God, it actually works. Because it doesn't sound weird, does it? When you're listening to those tracks, they don't sound odd.
No.
And so I can totally see that this, and I hope it will become a thing, right, for songwriters, that rather than just writing in 4/4 time signature or 3/4 if you're doing a little 3/4 ballad, that 4/6 they start writing in 4/6. It's a bit more interesting. It's something different, and it means that when your audiences and when your fan bases are synchronizing with your live performance or whatever, then you're engaging their parasympathetic nervous system. It's really powerful.
Yeah, because people, when they do concert, and you're a musician, you're an artist too, the goal of all this concert is like having everybody that is in the audience synchronized on your beats and your music. Yeah, to connect in between, to create those memories that are like forever. Without that synchronization, it's impossible to create those memories from as far as I know. So that could be a revolutionary concept for composers as well, making the world a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have the power to, say you're at the O2 Arena and you've got 18,000 people, right, breathing along to your song, there's a 4/6, they're extending their exhales, they're at resonance frequency breathing rate. That is like the ultimate way, especially when so many artists now are really thinking about their own mental health, but also the mental health of their fans. It's a serious thing now. We've acknowledged that the world screws with our brains. So we have to take care of ourselves.
It's about time that we realize that and not leaving it to on the side and just deal with it. There is a conscience that is raising, and you're part of it. You're there. May I ask you, Julia, why you do all these things? What drives you?
Yeah, well, I think this is back to what I was saying at the beginning, which I can't remember if we were saying it before we started recording or not, but some people have very high levels of intrinsic motivation, right? They're very driven. They, for whatever reason, something triggers that, and that is it. They are on a mission. And that's why often it's a bit difficult for those people to be, depending on what you're asking people to do, but if you're very highly driven and intrinsically motivated for something that involves a lot of effort, then you can't expect other people to do the same thing. I've written 3 books, I've done 5 degrees, I'm running 2 businesses.
You cannot ask everybody to do that. We're the same.
I did a genetic science summer school course at Cambridge last year with Professor Giles Yeo, who's a leading obesity expert in the UK. And he was like, we were going through it and showing that there's over 1,000 genes that play a part in fat storage. So, we are genetically designed to store fat for survival purposes. Yeah. Well, the same with
survival mode. Yeah.
When you look at any process in the body, there is a genetic underpinning of, gene expression and everything else for absolutely everything. So some people, we're not all the same. We've all got two arms.
We're all
unique
snowflakes. Yeah.
It's, we're very different. And so when I look back to why I'm doing this, because it's, it's not like every morning I get up and I think, oh God, I've got to do this again. And it's not as if I'm being paid millions of dollars to do it either. Launching a startup in a pandemic is freaking difficult.
And it takes a lot of resilience.
So you only do it if you have an underlying passion for this. And this really comes back to my roots is I was convinced as a sport and exercise scientist that we were going to produce healthy nations. In the 90s, I was absolutely convinced of that, which is why I was telling everyone to join the gym and going on diets. And I wanted to be a part of creating a healthy nation. That has failed. And
so far, but the turn is there. Yeah.
Traditional path to date. So now when I was working with the NHS Dementia Project and seeing people sleepwalking into these diseases, I don't want to end up there, right? So when I was doing my own biological age tests and my own gut microbiome tests, it was horrendous. I was very
Yeah.
I was fit, I could go and do a 10K and powerlifting in the gym and everything else, but there was poor sleep, high stress, frantic life.
So your biological age was above your age, even despite the fact that you were fit and doing all these sports and everything?
So it was slightly above, but my gut microbiome was terrible.
Ouch.
Right. So very low gut diversity. And this is when I started the research period, right? Like 5 years ago. So this journey started because I was looking at my own health. And then when I started doing this experiment on myself and trying to figure out how to do it at low effort, low cost, my own, just hacking my own habits, and then seeing how easy it was to then start getting this message out to people, because I'm seeing people still doing the high effort, high cost route, which they won't maintain for a lifetime.
No, you cannot. It's impossible. It's not sustainable. Everything that demands too much is not sustainable. In the long run, you're going to get tired of doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's interesting. Go ahead, please.
So that is what's driving me with this now, is that I'm, there is that kind of punk attitude that is still in there. I'm still not, I'm not afraid to speak up. Let's say that.
You should. You know what? When you were talking about that table at the parliament and they had those cereal and stuff like that, I was in my head. My question was like, did you jump on the table and just like smash everything, saying like, "This is crap"?
So what I actually did in that session is that when I realised that it was Kellogg's, it was
I knew it was them, because they are the one that brought the concept of you have to have breakfast in the morning.
Yeah. So when I realised they were leading it, everything, and it was all about fibre and what a brilliant job there was. So while we were sitting there and they were droning on about this research that they had done, that how they were going to, improve the fibre intake of the nation. And I was on their website, right? And so I was on their website. And so I just put my hand up and went, excuse me, I'm on the Kellogg's website right now. Cocoa Pops, Frosties. It's like, I can't actually find the All Bran and the Bran Flakes products that you're talking about here. So at what point are you going to put them on your homepage?
Yeah.
And really start driving this message, which everyone went really silent. There was an awkward
silence. Of course. If you're not politically correct, everyone goes
And
silence.
funnily enough, I have not been invited back to the second session.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. You stand for your ideas and you stand for what you think is right. You know, when I look at your career and who you are, from me, outsider, you've been presented to me as someone that was into science. And then I've learned from you that you were rock star before being science. But science
I wouldn't say rock star, but
but you have a band and these things, and I go like at everything, and I admire everyone on this planet that try to achieve what I've been trying to achieve my whole life as well. Getting to this center point Japanese people call the ikigai, where you combine everything you love for a cause that will serve the rest of the humanity. And what you're doing today, it's exactly this. Like, you combine what you love, the music, what you studied, like science, your network with all these people and the speeches and the talk that you do, to get there and to make whatever you're making there beautiful and accessible. Like, it's not even costly. Like, people try to monetize everything they do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you can have your music on Spotify. Whoops.
There's a lot of things that can be done that cost nothing. Yeah. And that's what I'm broadcasting, is that I'm trying to create a new preventative health approach that is low effort or no effort, low cost or no cost. Because that I honestly believe that is the only thing that's likely to work in terms of
You have to join our company because
my little dog's just arrived.
Yeah, bring him. You have to join our company because life spanning is about that. I left everything I was doing before to create this movement, life spanning. First, because I was sick about the word biohacking. When I'm a proud biohacker, but when I was telling people I'm a biohacker or this is biohacking, people were just like, "What are you talking about? I'm not this type of person. I'm not hacking any hospital. I'm not into computer, or I'm not a hacker." So it was negative, a very negative perception of that. And I was sick of doing something good that is perceived negatively. And I go like, I need to do something. So life spanning I invented that word, by the way. And it's just like, this is what you do. This is what we do. Let's keep doing it together.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Julia.
Good. Thank you.
It was awesome having you. Yeah, great pleasure having you, honestly.